Hey everybody, I'm Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to 17.1 Launch Week and our final webinar, New in 17.1 Dashboards, Reporting, and Analytics, presented by DevExpress CTO Julian Bucknall and DevExpress Technical Evangelist Paul Usher. FYI, this session is being recorded and it will be made available on our DevExpress YouTube channel. We will also do a live Q&A at the end of this presentation. Just type your questions in the GoToWebinar control panel at any time throughout the broadcast. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. I will now hand things over to Paul and Julian.
Thank you, Amanda, and good morning or good evening, everyone, wherever you may be. Welcome to our final webinar for the week, What's New in 17.1 Dashboards, Reporting, and Analytics. And good evening from Yorkshire to you, Mr. Bucknall.
Well, and good morning to you. Well, yes, it's morning, isn't it? Good morning to you from Colorado. Yes, it's one of those international webinars where we're all over the place. Situated all over the place. And welcome to everybody. And yes, it's the final webinar now for version 17.1. After this, we shall be doing some more technical webinars on the new enhancements, I'm sure. So what have we got today then, Paul?
Well, it's interesting. Dashboards, reporting, and analytics, I think, become such an intertwined commodity these days. Some people say they want reports, they mean dashboards. Some people want dashboards, they mean reports. It's like, it's just everything. We do have an agenda, and I'm hoping that you've brought your rehearsal notes and we're ready to go. We'll start off by covering the .NET reporting. There's common elements across all of the stacks, and then we've got specifics for web, WinForms, and WPF. We'll take a look at what's new in Document Server, Dashboards, and then Report Server. And I think the main theme for the week across a lot of platforms has been performance. But when it comes to these three topics, there's a lot more than performance happening. There's been some really cool advancement in some of the controls.
And I'd also say that what we're seeing more and more with these, if you like, these upper level component suites that we have is that we're trying to standardize across the platforms. We're trying to achieve some kind of parity across the platforms. So as we see there, we've got common aspects, common enhancements across all reporting platforms, as well as then trying the web, the WinForms and WPF enhancements to see how they're coming to some kind of parity across the platform. Because we realize, as you just said, reporting is not necessarily just, oh, let's just produce a report and print it out. It involves analytics. It involves looking at your data, trying to glean some information out of it, and then either exporting it as PDF or printing it out as a piece of paper or whatever it happens to be. You're trying to extract information out of your data into some kind of legible, visible form.
Absolutely. So what do we have on .NET reporting? The common features are going to include some new functionality in the print preview. We've actually added the ability to sort whilst in that print preview. What I'm going to do, because obviously the slideshows can be quite heavy, I'm going to jump between some of the demos and show some of these features as we go through. So I'm not going to sit in the items to start with. What I've got here is the DevExpress reports demo, which can be invoked from the demo center, available on the start menu or from within Visual Studio under the DevExpress menu there if you want. And we can see, as usual, we've got our new and updated demos, and I've selected interactive sorting. Now remember the designer. Forget some of the stuff happening on screen being part of our demo, but ultimately this is the report viewer. What we have is a simple report showing product list by category. It's grouped.
Hey, Paul. We're losing your audio for some reason.
Oh, losing my audio. Are you okay now?
Yep, that's better. Absolutely. Okay. So we have a product list by category. Go on.
So grouped by category type, we've got product details inside there, product name, and you can see that we've actually got some sorting glyphs showing here. So if I click on product name, I can actually resort the product inside that group, and you'll see it's affecting the, and the same if I do by, and if I move across to the actual group header, which in this case is beverages showing, I can again sort the entire report by the same. What's really interesting here, Julian, is the way that that's been implemented. I'm going to switch into the XR label, so an X report label sitting on the report. And attached to that are some new properties, which are the sort options. Paranoid at the moment about the whole not being able to hear me, so I'm hoping.
No, I think the issue is GoToWebinar is basically prioritizing the video over the audio. So when you move things, so it has to send out a new kind of screen layout or improvements to the screen or changes to the screen, your audio is dropping. So how about talk then action, or action then talk, or something like that?
We can manage that. So what we can see anyway here is the XR label, and we've got this interactive sorting property which has a target band and a field name that allows you to apply what's going on. So here we can say the field, we're going to sort by category ID, and the target band is group header. If I take a look at the product name label, and then I move, stop talking, move, we've got interactive sorting, and this time we can see the target band is the detail band, and we've got the field name of product name. So it's quite a nice feature to have and very, very simple to implement without any code. Next, from a visualizations perspective, we've got the chart filtering by report groups. Now, what we're talking about here is the ability to add visuals to your report groups without having to use code, which you'd had to do previously. I'm going to switch across to that demo. Find the right browser window, and voice thing now. So, but basically you can add a chart element into the group footer of a report and hook up the chart elements directly in the designer. So previously you would have had to do that via code inside your report generator.
In other words, the chart is being displayed by report group. It's no longer a global report, a global chart within the report. Within each group, you have a chart which is targeted at that particular group. And as we see here, we have category ID 1 and category ID 2. We have two different charts available, one for each of those categories, in other words, groups.
Correct. And that's all done within the designer. You simply specify the value, which in this case will be the same as the group, and it's a code-free solution. So another great enhancement to the reporting visuals. Next, there's been some changes to the PDF engine. As you know, Julian, when it comes to fonts, reports, and PDF, there are so many different variances. There are literally tens of thousands of font variants out there, and in some cases we've got to deal with non-embedded fonts. Now, up until version 17.1 we had support for ISO Latin 1, but the team have now changed that to use the Adobe glyph list, and from memory it included about 4,700 Unicode maps to non-embedded fonts, which is really cool. In addition, you can also now export the charts and sparklines when you're exporting to PDF in a vector format. And I can hear the cheers already going up out there because exporting as a bitmap really didn't look top quality in some reports. So now, and we're talking not on a desktop application, we're talking Azure medium trust application, and that was a big issue, certainly for some clients that I talked to. So that's really a welcome advancement in 17.1.
In fact, that's kind of across the board, where we're trying hard to produce and use vector images rather than pure bitmap images. We can see that in, say, WinForms and WPF when the icons are now SVG icons. So this PDF export of vector images inside a PDF makes your PDFs look better and easier to read and easier to use.
Crisper, more scalable.
Well, indeed.
Now, there's been some changes with PDF encryption. With this release, you can actually nominate whether you want to use 128 or 256-bit AES, which is Advanced Encryption Standards. Now, by default, the PDF will use the 128-bit version. This next one, when I was looking through the What's New file, I noticed it was just a line in the What's New, and it just said export to docx. But I was doing cartwheels around the office.
Absolutely. This has been, if you like, a long time coming, but now it's possible to export not just to RTF, which is, you know, a standard that, I don't know, we use in the open source arena perhaps, but docx, which is, you know, Word's internal format. And that's a great addition to our reporting features, our report export features.
A long overdue one.
And then we have the import. I wonder, import from Crystal Reports version 13 plus. How many people here are still using Crystal Reports? It's one of those things.
I'm thinking none should be if they've got our tools.
Indeed. You have our reporting engine. Use it.
Yeah. Now the import from Crystal brings across any report that's based on SQL or Oracle data sources. It brings across the summaries, the parameters, as well as some other attributes from the report. But it is a question that we do get asked a lot when people are migrating from Crystal across to our powerful extra reports engine. And there's also one other thing that didn't make it onto the list for some reason, but the barcode validator. So now within the reporting engine, you can run a quick check to determine if your barcode is going to be rendered correctly on your document. For example, somebody puts a long string into a UPC or a custom barcode, and they've got it drawn on screen so tight that it's just going to be too bulky to render. You can actually now check that prior to printing, and you can work with the corresponding error message. So it might say, you know, not enough room, whatever, and therefore you can have documents that aren't going to end up in a mess.
Very good.
Now, Julian,
Yes.
I'm going to hand over to you.
Oh, the web. The web. There's been some nice new features with regard to web reporting. In version 17.1, we've added a new web chart designer to the report designer, so you can now embed charts inside your reports. The usual features are there, the ability to customize the chart diagram. Well, like, duh. It's a bit silly to have a web chart designer that just define secondary axes, modify the legends, add constant lines and add panes and scale breaks and strips. There's also summary and data aggregation support, things like count, min, max, average, what have you. So web chart designer inside the report designer for the web. And of course,
This is one of those, one of those things you talk about, that commonality, bringing together, because people, and one of the things, or one of the traps I fall into, having used the desktop software or the WinForms software for 15 years, I automatically think when somebody asks me, oh yeah, of course there's a chart designer for the web, like they've brought all the features across, but of course they haven't yet, but are working hard on it. And in some respects, it's harder to bring some of those features to the web than it is to the GDI platform.
Indeed, but nowadays with regard to This, by the way, all of this stuff is actually written in TypeScript, not JavaScript. But with modern browsers, with the modern JavaScript compilers and so on and so forth, producing these interaction-heavy and vector-heavy designers into the web is, I'm going to say, a lot easier. Hey, I don't actually write the code, but it is a lot easier to do. Anyway, next up, DevExpress gets access to the Web Report Designer, the one that's been around for, well, a couple of releases now. It makes sense. It's a JavaScript-heavy component and was destined to be added to our JavaScript library and framework. So now it is. So DevExpress, you can now embed the Web Report Designer inside your web applications. Now, talking of that Web Report Designer, the Report Explorer has had a couple of new features added, the ability to reorder report bands and controls, and the ability to move report controls between the bands. Moving on, we've added a data source wizard to the report wizard. Again, this is like, duh. And again, it's something that really makes sense. You can now more easily bind your reports to a variety of SQL data sources like SQL Server and Oracle, among myriad others. Something, I suppose, that should have been there well, a little while ago, but now it is. Data Source Wizard. The field list panel inside the Report Designer has been enhanced. Now you can select multiple data fields and drag them onto a report, and you can also do things like drag a data source onto the report, and then from that you drag the data fields onto existing report controls, and that means you more easily bind your controls to your data fields rather than trying to have to write it in code. Oh, that code. Next up is we've added a client-side API for the designer and viewer, so you can customize what they do and how they look. We've published a new set of APIs to allow you to do things like customize the controls and their properties, customize the UI of the report designer and document viewer UI, and basically act upon changes and events in those UIs. You can now more easily localize the report designer and document viewer, and more easily manage the document preview. And using the API, you can now print or export the reports. You do not have to rely on the end user to click a button. You can have some kind of workflow whereby you can then export the report that the user is viewing.
And those APIs come in extremely handy when you're doing some client-side work. Even just being able to manipulate the document view, zoom, change pages, all whilst you may be doing other things for the client as well.
Indeed. And there's been a couple of more, shall we say, minor but still important enhancements. You can now use select distinct in the query builder for those people who are really into SQL. The HTML5 document viewer can zoom a page to fill the available space, and so on. So that's reporting for the web.
Excellent. So WinForm specific.
Tell us about WinForms.
I certainly am. WinForm specific. We'll have a look here, and then we'll jump into the actual designer to take a look as well. But there is a new expression editor. So let's have a look at what that is going to look like. I'm going to jump to...
We love GoToWebinar. Really?
We do. Yes. I'm going to jump into the designer. There is no, like we do rehearsals of these things, everything is technically spot on, and then the minute we broadcast the world, we get the technology gremlins coming out. Now, what we're going to see here, I'm going to jump across the field list, and I'm going to just add a custom field or a calculator field. We can see Now when I invoke the expression editor, we get the new expression editor. What's really cool here is the fact that everything I work on is going to be parsed in real time. So if I just come along and say, 2 multiplied by, the expression editor is going to say, hey, you can't leave it here. There's a parser error. There's, this does not compute. So I can finish the equation and everybody's happy. It would let me continue. The other neat thing is the fact that I can then have direct access to the fields within the text editor. All I need to do is press the left square arrow, left square bracket. I know what I mean. Square bracket. And up pops up a list of fields available to the tables, as well as all the functions that are available inside the report engine as well. So, and it of course gives me a nice little tooltip telling me what other properties and things I might want. So I can come along and select a field. I'm not sure why I'd multiply it by fish category, but and as long as it parses, that will go through. So that's quite nice. And we've seen that same expression editor implemented into the grid, implemented in the tree list, etc. So that's really quite sweet. The other thing we can now do is create a master detail report inside the report wizard. So those people that are using the report wizard or offering the report wizard to their end users, you can also do your binding on that multi-level design from there. We've got this thing called a report gallery. Now, I'm not going to ask you what you think a gallery is, Julian, because you got it wrong last time.
It's where you go and look at paintings.
No.
No.
I'm just going to jump into a different report here. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to jump to the designer. The idea behind the report gallery is it provides you a way of being able to group and reuse common elements within your report. So it might be headers, footers, it could be specific blocks, sections. So for argument's sake, if I wanted the text that's in this particular report as something I want to reuse, I could highlight all the elements. I could right click and select add to gallery. Now,
so in other words, it's like a template gallery. In other words, you can create templates that you can then reuse elsewhere in other reports.
Correct. And we'll see that in the bottom right-hand corner here, I've got a list of controls. I can do the same for styles. I could build a library of styles that I want to apply, or some other components, or even other reports, sub-reports. But we'll see when it comes to controls, we've got Julian's block that's spelt wrong, so I want to rename that. I can right-click, I can duplicate it, I can rename it. Oh.
Hey, Julian's blog. Okay.
I'm thinking that maybe it's not GoToWebinar, maybe it's just me. Now I'm going to drag this over to the report. We'll see that that's a bunch of information that I saved previously. And as I said, it could be styles that you want to apply quickly. It's a great little feature that's been added into the report designer.
So think, for example, of name and address. You want to have that as a block that you want to reuse somewhere else, or other features like product ID and product name. That's a small block, but you want to reuse it somewhere else.
Or even your own
the new report
logo,
gallery gives you that ability. Yeah, indeed.
Other quick things that have been, well, not quick things, I'll mention quickly. Other things that have been added to the reporting is the ability to automatically set HTML and RTF data bindings via the smart tag. You've also got the ability to specify group field names at design time without having a report data source, e.g. it will do the binding at runtime as well, which is pretty cool. And now you can tell me all about WPF.
Oh, look. One of the things we joked about with the WinForms and WPF webinar that we did on Tuesday was the number of times we could say for the other platform, yep, it's there too. So the new expression editor, yep, it's there too. The create master detail reports inside the report wizard, yep, it's there in WPF too. So that was an easy slide. What's the miscellaneous?
What's the miscellaneous? The miscellaneous is the report designer has the ability of doing alignment and layer actions via the ribbon. And you've also got the ability of exporting components into separate Excel spreadsheets via the composite link property, which is unique to WPF on that one. Which now brings us to Document Server. Now, for those that don't know, Document Server is I'm not going to say server-based product because it's not server, but it's a non-UI library allowing you to work with document types such as Excel, XLSX, DocX, PDF, and other data types without having the UI elements. So you could create a spreadsheet from scratch without giving your users the ability to actually interact with it. Same for PDFs, etc., etc. We've already talked about the PDF encryption. I was going to say password, but encryption on that. With the Document Server 17.1, we've now added the ability to create and delete interactive form fields. That is, you open a PDF that's designed to let you do all the form filling. You can remove all of the elements in one quick fail swoop, boom, gone. Or you could add new ones in, or you could delete just some elements from that functionality. And that can all be done via the API. Obviously, also features things such as the extended set of the support characters for Unicode, moving to the Adobe Glyph list, as I mentioned. And the password protection API has now been set to work in partial trust environments as well. So that's pretty cool. As far as the spreadsheet automation, we saw in the webinar at the beginning of the week that we've added the functionality for rotating text. That's now available via the API as well. And also, you no longer have to specify what type of document you're loading into the spreadsheet if you're using a stream or byte array. We've got rid of some of those. Well, they're still there for obvious reasons, but we've removed the requirement for you to have to use those overloads when bringing in that data. And that's about it for Document Server, Julian.
Okay. So what's next? Dashboard, I believe.
Dashboards, yes. Indeed. Now, dashboards. It's pretty much, I'm not going to say it's been a complete rewrite, but it's been a lot of code change in the dashboard viewer. We're calling it a new viewer. It's significantly faster. It's doing the rendering a lot cleaner. It's got a rich client-side API for allowing you to work with the dashboards. There's so much customization you can do. And now the dashboard control supports both the designer viewer mode or just a view-only mode. One of the biggest things that's been introduced, or two of the biggest things that's been introduced in 17.1 for dashboards is custom dashboard items and custom JS extensions. When I talk about custom dashboard items, I'm talking about the fact that you can now embed any content you want inside the dashboard control. You're no longer locked to just the elements that we provided. What we'll do is jump over to the dashboard demo. And
this is actually an important thing. Yeah, I know. This is actually one of those items which I know from personal experience, having talked to customers, that they really, really wanted the ability to put arbitrary other kind of panels inside your dashboard. We are not just relying on us eventually providing such support. So here we have, as an example, a dashboard which has a panel from Wikipedia, in other words, a URL from Wikipedia, and a funnel chart. And I believe, there we go, I was going to say, and we have a map as well. This one is a Bing map, I think. Doesn't look like Google. Yeah, doesn't look like Google to me. And you've got some pins stuck there. So what's that all about?
So all three of these elements are custom elements. Other than the none of these are DevExpress dashboard items.
And the other interesting
So
thing,
what
we also have custom spelling there, I see. Professional football with one L. Yeah, I'm just writing up the support ticket right now.
I was actually going to send, like a DevExpress mug to the first person that mentioned that, Julian.
Oh, I get a mug. Okay.
What we have is the fact that even though we're using external applications, so we're using Bing Maps, we've got Wikipedia and a chart, when I click on one of those elements,
so Paul has clicked on the French element, the French pin there, and we're now getting the Wikipedia page is updating to reflect that particular pin. So it's the French League, La Ligue 1. And the funnel is updated and so on and so forth. So you have this ability to use the API of the dashboard to update other panels as you move between those custom panels and the data and actions defined on those custom panels.
The dashboard designer, which was nice and quick. And we can see in the toolbox there on the left-hand side that we've got those custom items. The funnel, we've got the web page, and we've got the map. So you can build these custom items out. Now, to show you the next part, which was the custom JS extensions, 17.1 is shipping with full support for web extensions. Think of those as independent JavaScript modules or classes. And by leveraging that extension engine, you can actually add whatever functionality you want to the dashboard menu and toolbox. What we've done using a funnel D3 control there, you'll see it on our GitHub page as an example of building that extension. So it's pretty cool, and I think really going to open up how people start to use the dashboard product. Now, you've got to think about the space we're in when it comes to the analytics and dashboards. There's some big hitters out there, but I'm seeing such a great uptake of the DevExpress dashboard components for producing some high-end graphics and or infographics and feedback for people. The screen updated correctly now, Julian?
Yes, we're up to date with the GitHub page.
Been added to the web dashboard viewer. We've now got the ability of saving and restoring client state. And by client state, I'm not just talking about the position of a panel, the resize, or something that you've maybe selected in there. We're talking about the fact that either client or server side, you can let your customers customize, or your end users customize the dashboard, and those preferences can be saved for every subsequent site visit. We're talking about things such as master filtering, parameters, drill down, the selected index of a particular dashboard item. So a very powerful feature that's been obviously requested a lot we're bringing forward to the viewer. Next is a visualization for the card layout. There's a new enhanced rendering algorithm being used, which by its very nature is going to mean that the cards are rendered a lot more efficiently. We've also added some more layout options. You can modify the card's layout and its design either using your standard markup or using a template. There's things such as the compact view now that's in there. Pivot tables. I'm not a fan of pivot tables. I know you are, Julian. And I think dealing with pivot tables on the web is something that's quite brave because there's so much got to happen.
Well, the whole point about the pivot table is it's kind of aggregating or analyzing your data. So you have to ship all the data to the pivot table client side, which is generally a lot of data. That's part of the issues with web pivot tables. Yes, you can do some work on the server side. So the client side is then talking to the server a lot more to try and get the server to do the work. So it only has to transmit the minimum amount of data. But yeah, pivot tables can be complicated. Let's put it like that on the web.
So with this version, we've added the couple of different layout options, compact or tabular. You've now got the ability to change the layout of where the value position may be and its visibility, and also the totals position and their visibility within that pivot view as well. Now the tree map, which was a recent addition to the charting libraries, I think last year, that's now got full support for drill down. So you can actually allow your end users to quickly analyze the underlying data and then obviously drill back up for the summarized information. And we talked about different uses for the tree map control. Again, it's a little bit like a pie chart for you, isn't it? You're not a fan?
I'm not a fan. The problem with tree maps and pie charts and all that kind of stuff is you're being asked to estimate areas, and we're not good as human beings, or whatever you may be out there. We're not good at estimating areas. We can see that area A is bigger than area B, perhaps, but we have no way of estimating the value of the area. And that's the problem with tree maps for me. And the same with pie charts, essentially. But that's just my own thought, my opinion. Do not listen to me.
Well, I mean, here I've just got the Northwind database. I'm going to create a new dashboard. I'm choosing a new tree map control, and somebody's going to call Julian.
No, I've just dropped that phone. Oh, there we go. Hey.
There you go. So here I'm just going to add a value from our order table. I'll say, let's choose a value of the shipping city, and the ship city is. So I mean, personally, it's a little bit like pie charts for me. I love the fact that it's a quick visualization as to where the maximum effect or the match is going to be happening. So like here, we can see that Boise is where the most of our orders go to. Yes, if I want the value, I have to put my mouse over. But it's not too much on screen. Like I can say, okay, I want the smallest one. I want to know what the smallest one is. And so I can just put my mouse over when I need it, rather than worrying about all this extra volume of information overloading my copy.
No, I can see where you're coming from. And, in this particular example, yeah, you can see how the tree map has been structured and which is the largest one and all that kind of stuff. But again, estimating just by looking at the tree map, the value is hard, hence the need for, tooltips.
Hence the need for tooltips. Did you know that in our ASP.NET controls, we now have a beautiful little pop-up tooltip control?
Really? Oh, okay.
I pay attention when the boys do it.
Good.
Next, we've got exporting a dashboard to Excel. So that's charts, data, whether it be tabular information, it can be exported. You've also got the ability, and I know that this was a big one for a lot of people, to export the parameter values with the document as well. So if you've given your end user the ability to put some params in, you can now show that in the exported data. We've also added a number of things for specific options. So if you're exporting to a PDF, you've got a newly categorized area of PDF export options. If you're exporting to Excel, there's a new dashboard Excel export options set of properties to make it easier for you to work with that set of APIs. And I think that's it for dashboards, which leaves only one thing left.
And what is that? The report server. Yes.
Now, report server, for those that aren't aware, is our standalone reporting tool designed for more enterprisey, more hands-off, away from developer style report delivery. You can set up report server so it will deliver reports literally to people's inboxes or to a folder on the network. They can be sent via time setup. We've done a couple of webinars on it, both you and I, Julian, and it is a very powerful, it brings together everything that Extra Reports made available, but into a commercial reporting tool. Well, I'm pleased to advise that with 17.1, we've added dashboard support.
And the cheers come loud and clear.
Yeah, that was, I just see people now just holding their hand up in the air, go, yay, finally. But seriously, dashboard support now in Report Server. And what that means is that you've got all those things we talked about with the dashboard designer, with the power of the dashboard, the ability to bind that to your SQL data source. You can use the Report Server scheduling to send dashboard documents via email and all the other methods. So not just standard reporting, but you can now send dashboards as well. And it also means that it's incorporating all of the key features, such as the data model binding, all of the revision tools that come with Report Server, and also the permission management. So I think that is a huge product announcement for the Report Server. The team's also worked on improvements inside the query engine. So we've now got the SQL data sources provided by the data access library, and with that, in a number of improvements to the queries themselves. For example, we now support parameters in filter expressions for the data model. We've got the ability to create queries within a specific dashboard or report. And one of my favorites, excuse me while I cough, but one of my favorites is the fact that you can now create relationships between tables that do not have a common key. And what I mean by that is the fact that there may be no index, there may be no foreign key constraint, but you could still join table A to table B.
Marvelous.
Now that is, I think, is a fantastic feature, because I'm not a DBA kind of guy. I just like having a couple of tables and I want to report on them ad hoc. So it is certainly a great feature to have. Now the other, so there was a slide for the dashboard. I missed it. There's a dashboard in all its glory. With the fact that we've, as I mentioned, we've got the version control and all those sorts of things. But the final point, Julian, that I want to bring home is the filter editor now supports user-related data. So in other words, you can use inside the filter the active user, whether it be, well, you've got the user name, you've got the user group, you've got the domain name, all the things that are inside that user class can now be used to restrict data displayed within either a dashboard or a report. So you've got even more granular control inside that filter editor. Not that you'd actually use customer's address and match it to user email, but you get the gist, right?
Sometimes I think our developers have enthusiasm for a feature without actually thinking about how it should look.
Well, I think they set some of these screenshots up just to make sure we're paying attention, because that works. Yeah, okay. But it is a great feature, being able to limit specific data to a particular individual that report's going to go to, because it really does add that granularity.
In fact, that's an excellent point. The ability to, if you like, hide data from individual users is very important in certain scenarios. So the user only sees the data that he is allowed or enabled to see.
Absolutely. Now, I've not seen any questions at all while I've been showing my screen, so I'm going to be quiet for a minute while you and Amanda can maybe the first question we've got to ask.
Yeah, when is the question? When?
You know what, Julian?
Yes, indeed.
It's already out.
Version 17.1 was published 2 days ago on the 17th. Yes, version 17 on the 17th. And so it's available from the Download Center. Just log into devexpress.com and you'll be able to find whichever version of our products that you have, be it DevExpress Universal, DExperience, the report server, document server, whatever. It is there.
We did say that is the last of the 17.1 What's New webinars for the week. So we're finishing on a high because there's some phenomenal features there. And next we'll just start scheduling those more technical things and maybe even answering some of those questions in webinars.
All right. Thanks, guys. Cool stuff for 17.1. All right, everybody. So I just wanted to let you know that all of our launch week webinars have been posted to YouTube, so you can catch up or rewatch at your own convenience. This week we covered what's new in ASP.NET Web Forms, MVC and Bootstrap, CodeRush for Roslyn, WinForms and WPF controls, and DevExtreme. And of course, today's webinar will also be available on our DevExpress YouTube channel. I posted the link in the chat box. And that is it for this one. Thank you so much to Julian and Paul. Thank you all for joining us. And of course, thank you for choosing DevExpress. Bye-bye.